the recording. All right, so I'm sure some of you would have chosen to write this in your text, in your notes. That's fine. And some people put their answers in the chat, right? But what is important is that you do it. All right. Okay, so let's go through it together. Last week we talked about paragraphs and not paragraphs, sorry, commas. And this is a paragraph to help you practice putting back in punctuation, commas versus full stops, right? We have a tendency, students in Trinidad, and maybe it's Trinidadians as a whole, to put commas where we really should put full stops, right? If the thing makes complete sense, then it needs a full stop. If it's a partial idea, but it's a partial idea and the words, when you group them together, they tell you something, then you need a comma, right? All right, so I'm gonna go through. Let me make, increase the pencil point size here. Right. While I think non-uniforms are important, all right, so we have a pause here. That is a group of words that make sense together, but it's not a complete idea because of the while, right? If you say that to somebody, if you walk up to somebody on the street and you say, while I think non-uniforms are important, they would be left asking, so what, crazy lady? Well, if it was me, right? They want something after the while. That's because we need a comma there, right? I do not think that they are for everyone. All right, so that's a complete idea. I do not think that they are for everyone. That is a complete idea. We need a full stop there, right? I have a verb, do not think, and I have a subject, I. This is because many students find uniforms uncomfortable. All right, so that becomes a capital T. This is because many students find uniforms uncomfortable. So this is a full stop that goes here, right? This is a complete idea. Uniforms usually consist of a long pants or skirt, shirt or blouse, and ties that are hot and restrictive in our climate. All right, so that's our next grouping of words. Uniforms usually consist of a long pants or skirt. All right, so these pants or skirt have to go together. So I have to put a comma here. Now I'm in a list. Shirt or blouse, all right, shirt or blouse have to go together. So I'm not putting pants, comma, or skirt, comma, shirt, comma, or blouse, comma. All right, shirt or blouse and ties that are hot and restrictive in our climate. All right, that's a full idea. Now let's just talk about this comma, this before the and. What's the rule we usually use with commas before what's the rule we usually think of when it comes to a comma and the word and? Have your teachers ever told you something about commas and the word and? What do they say? Think about it. What have you heard? Right. So teachers in Trinidad, we always say don't put a comma before the word and, right? Because okay, yeah, it means the same thing. Don't put a comma, right? And honestly, this is a British English rule, and we follow a British English system. Like that's the version of English that we use. So sometimes we spell things a little differently. And we have a slightly different grammar. So this is one of the grammatical rules, right? So I'm actually going to scratch this out. Now, it's not wrong according to American English. You could put the comma there because it's the last item in the series. So you put a comma there, right? But according to British English, we would leave that with no comma. So some of you, when you put your answers in the chat, I didn't say take it out. You had a comment from the and I didn't say take it out, but I want you to remember this, right? In British English, when you have a list and then you come to the last item in the list, you say and this other thing. We do not typically put a comma there, right? If that's unclear, you tell me, I'll repeat the rule or I'll write it down. And if you want to read more about it, what you need to research is the Oxford comma, right? But the shorthand is no comma before and, right? And I'll put in the rule, I'll put in the brackets, sorry, this is a British rule. So American English, not an issue. So you will see it because, you know, we've adopted a lot of American English practices that English teachers will be aware of, but probably not students who, not people who use the language but don't study it, right? So just a heads up. All right, sneakers. So it's not wrong, is what I'm saying. But your English teacher might mark it wrong because they want you to use British English. That's what I'm saying, right? It's not wrong in the real world, but your English teacher might ask you not to do it in school. All right, sneakers and socks are also annoying to some. All right, okay, so that's a capital S. The S kind of joined up with the full stop, but you know it's there because it's a capital S. All right, so 1 minute for anybody to make corrections or screenshot anything they need to. And then we will actually go to what we are doing today. So I'm muting myself, but I'm right here. If you have questions, you could message. 1 minute, right? Okay, so we're going to continue. Do we, okay, so 2 questions in the chat. Do we use British English or American English? We use British English. Does the sentence start with and? No, I don't think I have a sentence here starting with and. That's not, this is not supposed to be a full stop, right? It was just me scratching out a comma. Right, because I had put the comma initially. And then I explained, well, in British English, we don't typically put a comma before the last item in a series, in a list, right? Okay, so again, in classroom settings, we follow British English, right? In the real world, people do different things and it's acceptable. If you work in a company and you're responsible for writing for the company, they may expect you to follow British English. But when people send emails or write letters, can I put it after? No, I would not put it after. If you put the comma before the and, would they minus you marks? No, I don't think so. Right, but your teacher currently in school might minus you marks. So, you know, don't give us that satisfaction of taking away marks from you. Just don't put it. All right. Now I said you don't put a comma after the and. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule in English, right? Which is what makes it so fun. But in general, if you're writing a normal sentence, no comma after the and, right? Yeah, yes, satisfaction. We secretly look forward to taking away marks from students. Maybe it's not so secret. Why not a full stop after restriction? Okay, yeah, you could. You mean here after restrictive? Yes, this is another option to correct the sentences. So let me change this, right? That's a good catch. It wasn't what I had intended, so I didn't see it, but that is correct, right? You could put a full stop here if you want. You start a new sentence in our climate, and you put a comma, because this is an interrupting phrase. It's an extra phrase in front of the main idea. Sneakers and socks are also annoying to some, right? So this is another option. All right, so I'm going to clear the screen and we're going to go on to what we have to do today. So we want to do two things today with reports. One, we want to write a sample report, which is a normal everyday report, like kind of like an eyewitness report or a report of you involved in an incident. You know, this is really an incident report we're going to write today. And then the next thing will be, we want to start statistical reports, right? All right, so I want to clear the screen. And I need to change the zoom for a little bit, and then we will come, it will be big enough again for you to see in a little while, right? So this is our second to last class. We will start back in September after, so next week will be our last class and we'll start back in September. This week we are finishing up, we are starting statistical reports, and next week we will work some more on statistical reports, right? Okay, so here is the question. As the grocery employee who handled the complaint mentioned above, write a report of the incident that got you fired, right? So you all would remember this incident. You purchased an item from a grocery store that turned out to be expired. When you took it back, the representative would not issue a refund, nor would they replace the product. So now you're pretending to be the employee who handled the complaints to the manager, right? And tell them what happened, because remember that the person wrote to the service bureau. Is Monday the 15th class? Yes, Monday has history and some other subject that I don't remember, that's the teachers. Yes, Monday the 15th will have class. That is because we had a Monday holiday, and we had originally intended not to have class on the holiday, but then we forgot to tell students that, so we ended up having class. But no, we still have the makeup class, which is the 15th, right? History, maths, and POA. Okay, thanks. So that's 3 subjects on Monday: history, maths, and POA. All right, so yes, Monday we'll have class, Monday the 15th, right? That will be the last set of classes. Okay, so basically somebody came in to complain and it was handled however it was handled, and we need to write a report on how it was handled, right? We could decide that when we are doing it. So this is a reminder. You would already have this written down for from previously, from when you wrote down the format for the letter. So you don't necessarily need to take it down again, right? So remember, we are writing about, we witnessed the person come back in to return the milk and what we saw happen, right? All right, so sender's address, this was better value. There was a different store, better cost, sorry, supermarket. Something is going on with my spacing that leaves some spaces between letters and the words. I'm not sure why that is, but you all could ignore the space when you're taking on the example, right? So better cost supermarket, the date, I'm going to put in as today's date, so the 6th. Can you believe we are in August already? Yeah, so at the closing, we have John Smith twice. You'll notice the one on top is in italics. And that is supposed to symbolize it as the person's signature. And then below is the person's name in block letters. So in the real world, if you're actually writing a letter or report, that is what you would do. If you're typing it, it wouldn't you would just put, like, we are typing here, so it looks weird to have your name twice. We would just have your name once. So we might just have this John Smith, right? But if you are handwriting it, you would need to put your signature. And then because signatures are not always legible, you would write back the name below, right? All right. So the receiver's name, let's say we write into the owner. So we put a different name, Mr. S. Smith. Smith is my go-to name here. Right, company address, company name, that's a supermarket. Oh, I need to put it title. So owner, that's a supermarket. Right, and the address will be Cunupia Main Road. For report, do you write it word for word as the person told you what happened? If you are writing the report, chances are it's what you saw happen. So only what you see happen, right? All right, so I'm just putting Southern Main Road. And I'm leaving it that way. No inputs. Well, only if you could verify that it is that it really happened. So like if you could use I, right? You could use he and she in the report. The owner will be the Mr. S. Smith. So that's supposed to be the position, the title, right? All right, guys, just a reminder to please put your full name, first and last name as your name on the chat, right? Okay, any other questions? Keep putting them in the chat. That's a good, they're good questions, things that people might be unclear of that I might not have thought of that y'all would be unclear of it. So put it in the chat, right? No, I don't mean put your full name in the chat. I mean, I can see your name on Zoom. So put your full name as your name on Zoom, please. Rename yourself to your full name, right? All right, anyway, so this is our heading, right? We have because I'm writing from the same place because I'm an employee, I just put back Better Cost Supermarket. I didn't bother to type back the address, but you could type back the address. You could write, well, there's just one thing. So I'll put Southern Main Road, right? All right. Do you have to put owner? Okay, so just a reminder, when we did the format, we said that we would put, let me write it in the pen so you can see it, right? It goes name, our reports first, SA and CSAC similar. Well, I'm not sure that's a useful comparison. There are a lot of different things you have to do. Yeah, I guess they're similar. Like a SA report is just a much more basic version, like a tricycle versus a bicycle. Right, owner is the job title, if you know it, right? So if he was the manager, you can put manager. But in our first example, we wrote to the manager, and the person who handled the complaint was the manager. So you're not going to write an incident report to the manager about what the manager did because the manager was there. You write it to the owner or somebody else. All right. So we put name, we put job title, we put organization name, right? And then we put address. Reports new for CXC. When they changed the syllabus a few years ago, at this point it's a few years ago now, right? When they changed the syllabus, that was added to it. Right, and they haven't brought a statistical report since they changed the syllabus, but they could. And since it's not something that you could just do easily, that's why we're going to practice it. All right, any other questions? Let me know. All right, so we get to Dear Sura Madam. We need to have a subject line for the report. So I'm hoping that we are taking this down as an example, right? So the subject line for the report could be incidents involving customer and return of expired goods. Okay, yes, I could zoom in. When I zoom in though, the name, job title, organization address, that is going to shift. So if anybody needs to take a note of it, take a note of it, right? All right, Nicola, which name are you asking if we could put nice? Twice, sorry. Is it the name of the supermarket? No, I can't zoom in anymore. That's the best I could do. Oh, okay. So John Smith is the name because the John Smith name is twice, which I said just now, but I'll say it again, right? When you are writing a letter, a formal letter, one of these is going to be a signature. The first one will be a signature, and then the next one is going to be the name printed, right? In block letters. Because some people's signatures are not legible. So if he signed his name, he might write it like this, right? And nobody knows what that is. So you put the name underneath to explain or to spell out the person's signature. Right? All right. Here, let's do the report quickly, and then I will, when I switch to slideshow mode, it will be bigger and you could screenshot it, right? So incident involving customer and return of expired goods, the introduction, who you are, why you are writing, what will be the order, what follows next, right? All right, so as the clerk, or as a cashier on duty for return. I really don't know what is going on with the spacing of my words. I'm sorry about that, but you'll have to you'll figure it out, right? For returned goods last Thursday, so today's the 6th. Let's pretend it was the 29th of July. 2022. I write to provide an account of what took place when the customer, John Smith, came in to our Cunupia branch to return the expired item, right? Or the expired milk that was purchased earlier that day. Right? All right, so now we're just thinking about what happened. So I've said who I am, I've said why I'm writing, and I've given an idea of what will follow, an account of what happened, right? So next thing I need to put in my important ideas as briefly as possible. So what do you think happened when the customer came in? Do you think the manager came to them immediately, or did the manager make them wait? Yeah, because remember the customer was angry. So that could be a reason, right? So we're going to put in some details to make it feasible that the customer might have been angry, right? So first, firstly, the manager delayed in seeing the customer because he was on the phone. Firstly, the manager was delayed, right? Okay, yeah, it could have been that it was an assistant manager who came instead. But I already started with this line, so I can't put that in now, right? So first the manager was delayed in seeing the customer because he was on the phone. When he finally arrived, he did not greet the customer politely. Instead, he raised his voice and asked why she was there. I don't know. The customer in turn became increasingly aggravated as she explained that she was returning milk that was it milk that we bought? I can't remember now. That had expired. It was milk. All right. Prior to the purchase date, right? Manager insisted that this was not the store's problem. Oh, I misspelled aggravated here. Right? And instead, she should have paid more attention. Right? All right, now I'm trying to get two body paragraphs. I will say at this point, the customer became angry, or irate is a nice word, and threatened to contact the customer service bureau for to report the grocery store for selling expired products, right? The manager then called security to escort her out. Right? He did not issue a refund or exchange. Okay. All right, so there are some ways we can make this stronger. Okay, so conclusion, mention the attachments. I don't think we will have any attachments. What follow-up action would you like? I don't think we need a follow-up action. So contact information, yeah, we could put that. So Should you have any further questions? Please do not. Well, actually, no. Let me just leave this out for the report. They shouldn't have any questions to follow up, right? Okay, so Tanisha's put a comment in the chat that we're not supposed to express our thoughts in a report. That's true. And the example she's given is like how I've said irate instead of stating what she did, which would show the reader that she was angry. You're right. I feel as though we could get away with it here. Because it would be hard to misinterpret the woman's actions if she were angry and call it something else. What if I say at this point, the customer in an irate tone threatened to contact the customer service bureau? That way I'm just describing it too. Why 4 paragraphs and not 6? A letter and a report. Letters and reports are supposed to be short. So 6 is probably too much. The only place you might get away with 6 paragraphs might be in a story, because some of those paragraphs could be even shorter than here. Well, we need to use pronouns for reports. You're allowed to say I, and you're allowed to say he and she. Right? Now we wouldn't say, okay, so for example, in this 3rd paragraph, at this point, the customer in an irate tone threatened to contact the customer service bureau to report the grocery store. I would not say to report us, for example, right? For selling expired products. I would change that to the grocery store. So if you need to use the personal pronoun, use it, right? But if there's a way to get around it, then avoid it to make the writing sound more objective, right? Okay, so let me see. Anything else we're gonna put in here? So after the exchange or after the customer left, the manager returned to his office. So we can just kind of close it off. There's something else. Look at the reports again. I've been saying the manager. If the person works at the company, they should know the name, right? You could say the name of the supermarket instead of grocery store, right? You could say Better Cost Supermarket, yeah, instead of grocery store. Is the report written in 3rd person or is it written from someone else's point of view? It's written from the cashier's point of view because it's the cashier providing the report. So it's what the cashier saw, right? So they're only going to report what they saw, right? Okay, so let's put in a name for the manager. Mr. Thomas Moore, right? Yeah, we will change the closing just now. I had gone back to a format that we had in the PowerPoint, and I was just rewriting it as we went through to do the report. Okay, so at the end now, let's close off the letter. I think we could end it here. I think we could include in line. If for further information, you could reach me at whatever. But for a report, I think you could also leave off the line, since in a report you would have provided complete information, right? So respectfully, all right, yeah, the time is missing from the report. We could put in the report. Yes. I need a name. Okay, someone suggested something, James. So Withington James. Right, why do I have this twice? Remember that one is supposed to be the signature. So when you write a report for school or for CSEC, sign the letter as the name of the person, and then put the letter spelled out. Yeah, wide contact information when the person works there. So I think it's optional to put in that last part that I had put in the original format, that you could include contact me if you need to, right? So, oh, the time we want to put in here, the time here. All right. Let me put the time over here at approximately 12:15 p.m., right? And whatever time makes sense given the context. So if I put it up on top, it sounds as though the cashier was on duty. The time is to show the cashier was on duty, but we want the time to show when the person came back. I still feel like the report needs a little bit more at the end. Yeah, thanks for the observation, guys, about the spelling. I did explain to you that I don't know what it is separating some letters from the words. So you have to put it together when you're taking on the example, right? It's not, I didn't put a space there. I think it's because of how it's justified. It's spreading out the words in the on the page. So I do think the report needs one more closing, right? The customer has not been heard from since, maybe. Right? So the customer has not been heard from since. We can't put a suggestion in the report. Our report is not a place for us to put a suggestion. All right, so let me zoom out and then go to slideshow, so you'll see it bigger and clearer. Right? All right, so anybody who needs to take a screenshot or finish making your notes, you could go ahead and do that, right? And if I look at the time now, it's 12:20. So I'm going to give a few minutes for us to take down the notes. You have to fix the spelling here, like with the Better Cost Supermarket. Make sure the ETA is right next to the B and the supermarket is right next to the S, and so on, right? I'm not sure why the format is making that change. Okay, so I'm muting myself. I'm right here. If you have questions in the meantime, you can put them in the chat. But we're taking now the example or screenshotting the example, right? All right. Two details. One, who is this? Clarissa is pointing out that if we work in the supermarket, we would know if it was a sir or madam, right? And since I have Mr. S. Smith, it should be sir, right? Like she's saying. So that's a good observation. I can't change it right now without disrupting the screen. So let me scratch. I'm gonna scratch that with a pen. Right, that's the first one. And then Tanisha, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying, right? In a report, you were asking if at the end you could put in a suggestion. So for example, the cashier might say, in future, maybe the manager should turn up to meetings earlier or something, or respond immediately when called or something like that, right? That's what you had in mind. So for a report, no suggestions, because a report, oopsie, is supposed to be objective and not have our opinion in it, right? So reports do not include suggestions. Now, when it comes to letters, if the suggestion is fitting, then yeah, you could put in a suggestion. So in the letter of complaint, where before where the person wrote to complain about the expired milk, they could have put in a suggestion at the end. Perhaps the grocery should be more diligent about its expiry dates, for example, right? So there could be room for a letter in for suggestions in a letter. But in a report, no, because we're trying to keep it objective. It's not what we think happened, it's what we saw happen. All right, guys, how are we doing? Anybody still writing? All right, one person is still writing. Anybody else? Okay, 3 people. All right, go ahead. All right. So we had a few more minutes. How are we doing? Can I see how many people are still writing? One. All right, quite a few. Okay. All right. Well, let's segue into the break. So let's take a break until about, let's take a 10-minute break. So we'll give people a chance to finish writing and then also get a few minutes to do something if they need to, right? So at 12:38, we're going to start back with the statistical reports. All right, so I'm going to pause the recording. So we're on the topic of brackets, just based on a question somebody asked. And I'm saying that brackets are for extra information that's not closely related to what you're talking about, right? I wanted to go to the grocery store and also to the hairdresser, but that's not for today, to get vegetables for the week, right? So in the middle of my sentence, I have this extra detail that just because it pops into my head, I see it. That's what brackets are for that extra information. Now, there is one time you might use it, but it's less common. So brackets are used to introduce abbreviations, right? So for example, I'm writing an essay, right? And I'm saying, example, the essays on the exams that we write at the end of school. So I'm saying, we prepare to write the Caribbean examination councils. All right, now I've said, look at how long this took me to write, right? And later on in the essay, I might want to bring them up again. So in brackets, I put the abbreviation, right? And then after this, I can refer to them as CXC, right? All right, now the apostrophe S might be confusing. It's because I was about to put exams. We prepare to write the exams of the Caribbean Examination Council, right? And I put a comma and I put CXC. Brackets may be round or they could be square, right? And then I could continue these exams by CXC are available throughout the Caribbean, right? So when we do use brackets, when you may need to use brackets is if you have something that you need to abbreviate later on and use the abbreviation later on, so you don't keep referring to it as this super long thing. So those of you who do literature, you might consider for, if the title of the poem is very long, you could put the shortened version that you'll be using in brackets, right? And then afterwards refer to it by the shortened version. So you don't have to keep repeating, for example, sonnet composed upon Westminster Bridge. In sonnet composed upon Westminster Bridge, the setting is a bridge. And then later on you might say, the speaker of sonnet composed upon Westminster Bridge. It's a very long thing to have to write. So in brackets, you might put sonnet after the first time. So afterwards you refer to it as sonnet. All right, can I change the screen? All right, 2 more minutes. And the context of how this question came up is the student was asking if you would put like the supermarket name in brackets in the report. So no, I don't think so, right? No, I don't think so. You would not, because the supermarket name is necessary. You need the name of the supermarket, right? So it's not by the way, it's not like a tangent about a hairdresser. So that you have to put into the sentence. So you would not use brackets. All right, 2 more minutes. Okay, we could go on now to statistical reports. We're just going to be able to start it today. We won't finish it, right? How did the weather treat you all over the last 2 days? Anybody got flood? All right, I'm just changing the slide again now to go to statistical reports, right? It was cold. Yes, it was cold. A lot of rain, yeah. All right. When you'll hear statistical report, what do you think of? Anyone has had to write one before? Would you say it was easy or would you say it was difficult? Right, it's a report based on statistics. So statistics, you will know is information that's given in numerical form. Some people, I remember one before, one person said it was easy. Yeah, about two. So an example could be like about 2,000 people in Trinidad are homeless. Well, I put in the in Trinidad part. I'm not sure where you were talking about exactly, and it may not be an accurate. It was just an example, a discussion example, right? All right. So let's write that down. So statistical reports. So a report that takes information on from statistics that takes, let's wait till we're done writing down, till I'm done writing down this definition before you write, right? Because I feel I'm going to go back and change a couple things. So a report that takes the numerical information from statistics and turns it into words and sentences. Right? This is to help people see trends and patterns, right? And to understand what the numbers are showing, right? Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see this better. Okay, a statistical report. Please feel free to shorten this if you want. But make sure you have the general idea, right? All right, so you can take any definition now, and over here I'm going to do an example. Yeah, the COVID reports, the statistic, the numbers of people infected would be an example. I'm going to do a global warming change, right? A global warming example. So let me see if I could find the. All right. Well, actually, let me. Okay, so since 1880. No, this is the, all right. Let me wait till we're done with the definition, and then I'll get the example on the screen, and I'll show you how we convert it into words. Right? So just take down the definition for now, and in a minute we'll look at a graph together. Okay, anybody still writing? All right, go ahead. All right, guys. I'll come back to this slide in a minute, right? But we need to look at the graph, at least start the graph, so others could continue since they're dominant, right? And a statistical table or chart will give you information in numbers, and then the report will take the numbers and help you see things that are important, right? All right, so one example of helping us see something that's important, 2021 was the 6th warmest year on record, right? Another thing, the temperature of the earth has increased by, I'm going to put the Celsius, right? 0.08 degrees Celsius. Per decade, every 10 years. Since 1880, right? So you might get a chart, and then you have to find the trends and the patterns within a chart, from a chart, right? So these are just two examples of how you could convert numerical information into information in words and sentences, right? So you could note these as well with your definition. All right, finish. Can we move on? All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about was statistical reports. Here's another example of statistics written as words, right? So you see that sometimes the words put back the numbers, but it helps us to understand something that's going on. Now, don't take it down yet if you're writing it. There are a couple of points I want to raise, right? Overall, company had another excellent year. We shipped 14.3 tons of fertilizer for the year and averaged 1.7 tons of fertilizer during the summer months. This is an increase over last year, where we shipped only 13.1 tons of fertilizer and averaged only 1.4 tons during the summer months. Okay, so generally this is fine, except for one detail for our purposes in statistical report writing. And that is this word, excellent, right? So we don't want that. We do not want an excellent in there, right? This is a judgment word. And remember, it's a report. So just like how you don't put in suggestions, you only stick with what you see. We can't have a judgment word like excellent, right? Now, obviously in the real world, why are statistical reports written? Well, they're written for companies to say to shareholders and to people in the company is doing well, to the owner, to the workers, the company is doing well, right? But for CSEC, we're going to leave out those judgment words. So what we could say instead, overall the company sales for the company increased, right? So overall, company sales increased this year. Or even fertilizer sales increased. Right? So look at how they're doing it. They give the detail, the numbers, and then they tell you what it shows. It shows an increase, right? So this year we shipped this much and we averaged this much, and this shows an increase from last year when we only shipped this much and this much, right? So you have to say what the numbers show, right? So that's what this is doing. Say what the numbers show. We're not only going to write back, there was a 0.8 degree increase in 2021 over 2020. We have to say why that is important based on the data, not on our opinion, right? So say what the numbers show. And I will give you some words to help you do that. All right, so let me give us a couple of minutes. Anybody who wants to note anything from here, and then we will just go through one more thing on statistical reports, and then we'll wrap up. All right, so the last thing we'll do is look at some of the vocabulary we use to talk about statistical reports or to talk about statistics, right? So I'm leaving this up for 2 minutes. If anybody wants to screenshot it or write it down, you could go ahead. Okay, can I move on? All right, so I'm clearing the screen. We're just going to do one more thing on this topic, and then we'll continue next week. So not this. Right. So let's look at some words that we could think about using in statistical reports. So we just saw one. It was an increase. So if you identify an increase in something, you could say, hey, there's an increase. Related to that is growth. You could talk about accelerated if something is accelerated. So these are words to show something going up, right? Upward trend. right? Decrease will be the opposite. Something could be shrinking, downward trend, right? And then if things are not going up or down, they could be staying the same. So you can say remained the same or unchanged. You could describe, you could talk about something being in flux or fluctuated. Right? So this means it goes up and down with no clear pattern. Oh yes, stable is a good word. Can stagnant be used? Yes, stagnant could be used, but remember that stagnant has a kind of a negative connotation. So if that is appropriate for whatever, then you could use it, right? But stagnant has this kind of connotation like, hey, you know, the thing was supposed to change, but it didn't really change, it remains stagnant. For example, did you water in a pond? Or even somebody in life, if you describe them as stagnant, it's because they are not moving forward like they're supposed to. So it could be used, given the context, just remember it has a negative connotation, right? All right, so we have fluctuated. You could say unstable. All right, now some adjectives, right? So this is what the numbers are actually doing. Oh, plateaued. Yeah, plateaued could be a word, meaning it went up and it hit a steady point. That plateau doesn't have a negative connotation, I don't think. It's just the idea that it's flat, right? It's not going up anymore. Or another word for decreasing, you could talk about slump. All right, and then there are some adjectives. So this is describing what the numbers are doing, right? Some adjectives. I don't have any synonyms for fluctuation. So we could have something could be rapid. It could be sharp, an increase or decrease could be sharp. The opposite, it could be slow, it could be gradual. There could be a steep incline or decline. Things happen quickly, things happen slowly. Slight, dramatically. These are mixed up, right? So it will depend on what you needed to say. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So, oh, inconsistent is a good one. Yes. Thank you. And conversely, you could use consistent, right? Okay. And there are others, but these are just some to get you started thinking about it, right? Okay. So we will stop here for today. I'll give you the rest of the 3 minutes or so to take down what you need to. And if anybody needs me to go back to a previous slide, you'll let me know, right? All right, so I'm muting myself. So next week we will continue with statistical reports. Next week will be our last week, right?